Okay, so let's take a look at the architecture of how passwords are stored, because we mentioned that we can try to hack a password either while it's in storage or while it's in transmission, or what they refer to as in motion. So where are the passwords stored? Well, that really does depend on the operating system that you're using and the environment that you're in. For example, when it comes to Windows, if this is just a machine that is not part of a domain, maybe it's your home PC or it's grandma's PC or it's your laptop, there's actually a database on the hard drive that's referred to as the SAM database. Now, the SAM database is located wherever you've installed Windows. The default is Windows/system32/config/SAM. In fact, let's take a look at it here. Here I've opened up my File Explorer and I've gone to my C drive where I installed Windows under System32. There's a directory called config. If I expand that out, you'll notice inside of here there's this nifty little file called the SAM file. Now the passwords themselves are actually stored in a hash, and this location or this database is actually mounted up as a registry entry, which you can see through hkey/localmachine/SAM. But that's getting kind of nerdy on you. Now on a domain environment, user accounts are stored in a centralized database on a domain controller, or any domain controller for that matter. We'll talk about that one a little bit later on. But normally we see these being stored locally. In some older operating systems for Microsoft, there was actually a repair directory that had a backup copy of the SAM file. Now, if you're in a domain environment, user accounts are not stored on the local drive of the client machine. User accounts are actually stored in a file that's called the ntds.dit file that's located on every single domain controller in your environment. And on your domain controllers, it's stored inside of a directory that's called Windows ntds.dit. In fact, let's show you. So here I am on the C drive of my domain controller, and inside of my Windows directory, I have a subdirectory that's called, it's top secret, don't tell anybody, ntds, which is NT, or New Technology Directory Services. And inside of there, there's the famous ntds.dit file. This is the database file that has all my accounts for my infrastructure, or it's the main database for Active Directory. Now, don't think Linux doesn't do the same thing, because guess what it does? It stores its passwords inside of the etc directory in a file that's called shadow.
Yeah, but you didn't say anything about Apple because it rules.
No, trust me, it's still there. For Apple, we actually store it in a file that's called the user.plist, which is located in the var directory under db, dslocal, nods, default, and then users. And this file, this user, and that is inside of the greater than and less than brackets, .plist is, or has a shadow hash data property associated to it. And there's ways that you can open this file up. Now, typically, again, like I said, you normally just can't grab these, right? You're thinking, I'll just go grab them. Well, guess what? Now, these files do contain your authentication credentials, but they're stored as hash values. So it's not like you can just open it up. In fact, most of the files are going to be locked while the OS is running. Now, as far as it being hashed, you need to know that it's a one-way algorithm, which means I can't reverse the hash.
Okay, Goodale, that's cool. Then obviously, I'm secure.
No, because I can steal it, folks. Okay, so here I am back on our virtual machines, and I shut down Windows 7 because I'm going to use it as my guinea pig. I'm going to make some configuration changes, and again, these configuration changes will be different compared to whatever virtualization you're using. But I'm going to come into the settings, and a couple things I'm going to do. First of all is I'm going to actually increase the RAM here a bit for this particular box, just because I know what I'm about to do is going to be memory intensive. So I'm going to bump that up to 4 gigs. I'm also going to take my processor and I'm going to bump that up a couple as well. And then I'm going to mount an ISO, which is a virtual CD for a product that's called Loftcrack. Now, Loftcrack has been around for years. Very, very easy to reset passwords with it. It'll do brute force attacks for you, as well as use something called rainbow tables, which we'll talk about a little bit later on. But I'm just going to open this up for a second, or mount that as an ISO. And then I'm also going to make sure that I boot from my CD, because I don't want to boot into Windows 7. Because remember, again, I can't grab that file or do anything with that file while the operating system is running. So one of the ways that you could actually get that SAM database off is to boot off of a different CD or USB drive, access the hard drive of the local machine and copy it over, and then you could take it and do whatever you want offline. So I'm going to go ahead and let's fire this bad boy up. We'll start this thing. And you'll notice here it starts off asking us about which mode do we want to go into. And I'm going to go ahead and go into automatic mode. This is, again, a live CD, which means you could burn this to a USB drive for exactly the purpose I just discussed, that I could slap this into a machine, reboot it, boot right back into it, and gain access to the system. So you'll notice right away it already found my SAM file, and it already took off the user accounts. Now, because this is kind of interesting, it's kind of a quirk, this particular distribution of Linux, which is what Offcrack utilizes, does not support the traditional Microsoft drivers for a mouse and a key, for a mouse. It does support a keyboard. So you can see my mouse cursor down here in the middle of the screen, but I actually don't have control of it. So I'm going to have to become the master of keyboards, sir. So I'm going to do this. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to load up what they refer to as a table so that I can try to crack this. And I'm going to use my tab key to go over to my tables. I'm going to hit my space bar to open it up, and you can see that they have several tables that you can download or gain access to. I'm going to just tab through here until I get to the install button, and then I'm going to hit my space bar again, and I'm going to browse to a directory on this computer now, which is actually the CD-ROM. Gotta hit tab until I get my green arrow over here highlighted. There we go. Now I'm going to hit spacebar to go up, spacebar to go up again. There we go. Now we're in the root of the hard drive, and the tables come with Lovecrack, and they are located. I got a tab here until I get into the directory side, and now I can use my down arrow. I'm going to go to my media and hit enter, and I'm going to come down here to my HDC and hit enter. And there it is right there. It's called tables, and they give us a free one. Now, how Lovecrack makes a little money is that they make rainbow tables available for purchase, but I think if you did a little Googling, you might be able to find some rainbow tables. Again, we'll talk about rainbow tables here in an upcoming module. I just want you to see how easy it is to see the hash file based off of the SAM file. Now, I'm going to go ahead and tab over and highlight crack, and I'm going to hit the space bar, and it's going to start up the cracking process. I'm going to hit tab down a couple times here just to get down to this area here, and then I'm going to expand that out so you can see this go on. So you can see here it's already gone through and found the password for Clark Kent, which, yeah, it was super. And I'd normally go through and let this continue to run, but time is of the essence. Trust me, by the time this is done, it will have discovered the passwords because they were smaller passwords. They were just the standard 7-character passwords.